to Finding Your Soul's Voice. Hi, I am Laura Key. I am a soul searcher, a vocalist, an international real estate agent, and a 55-year-old woman who is finally learning to step into her power. Hey, listen, this is about a 13-week journey that was inspired by The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Now, this is not an official guide, nor am I connected to the author or the publisher, but this is simply my journey and my story and my soul's awakening. And in my story, I'm inviting you to walk along beside me because we only get one life around this world, and I want to ride it screaming. Now, listen, to me, this book has become a journey to my creative rebirth. At the age of 16, I was a mother. I was a vocalist before then. And at the age of 16, after having my child, everything shifted. Whereas everyone supported my singing dream, to now you can't do that anymore because you are a mom. And for many, many years, I held that depression within me and was miserable. And then as we get older, we see that there are many things that you should be doing because that soul continues to knock on your heart when you're not doing what you need to do. So I'm stepping into my power. I am stepping into my power. So we're 3 weeks into this journey. So if you haven't watched the first two plus the bonus, please go back and watch those because honestly, you need to follow this in order. And it's not something that you're going to be able to rush through. You really need to take the time to work through. And what I do is I listen to the book on my walks and my runs. I really focus on that. And then also, I will do the homework and the assignments. And then I'll do that for a full week, and then I'll go ahead and tackle the next week. So, we're at 3. And if you're like me, things are starting to shift. Not in a glittery, overnight transformation kind of way, more like in a quiet, slightly uncomfortable, deeply personal way. Now, I've also shed a lot of tears during this because I've actually had a lot of self realizations. You begin to notice that you start to resist what you're reading, and you're starting to see some patterns in yourself. The feelings that rise up when you start claiming space for yourself. So this week was all about power. What I've done with mine, what I've given away, and how I'm learning to take it back. So let's talk about what that really means. First, we're going to talk about anger. We carry anger, and we really need to recognize that. I wasn't really prepared for the way that anger would surface this week. I don't mean the dramatic screaming in the parking lot kind of anger. I mean kind of the simmering kind, the old stuff. The times I bit my tongue instead of speaking my truth because things started coming up when I was journaling, right? The moments that I swallowed my pain to keep the peace. That kind of anger doesn't just disappear. It hides, it hardens, and eventually it shows up as exhaustion, depression, or explosive moments over things that seem so small. So this week I actually made space for it. I let it come up without labeling it as bad, because y'all know I have the good girl mentality, right? And that actually changed everything. Because anger isn't toxic unless we actually bury it. And I buried mine for so long. Now, when we meet this anger with curiosity, it now becomes a map. It shows us what really matters. It points to the boundaries that we're supposed to have and that were crossed in our life. It also shows values that were dishonored and your dreams that were delayed. So if this week has you feeling angry about being overlooked, overworked, dismissed, or denied, I want you to know you're not crazy. You're waking up. You're remembering that your voice matters. You gotta let that anger guide you back to yourself. Now, a lot of my anger came from having so much support of being a singer. And then all of a sudden, overnight, it stopped. I didn't even have time to process what was going on. I was 16 years old. I was already going through hormonal things, the normal things that teenagers go through. Heartbreak, first time love tearing your soul out, to single mother, to still being mothered by my mother. There was so much anger that I dared not let out. But I let them out in my morning pages. Now, if you haven't watched the first few episodes, you know, or you don't know, that you should be writing every morning 3 pages of just non-conscious flow, whatever comes to you. If it's good, write it. If it's bad, if you don't have anything to write, you can say blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I'll end up writing just a nursery rhyme until you get a flow. Sometimes, some days you're going to get a lot of creative flow and sometimes not. But in my morning pages, this is what Julia calls them. I actually call them morning papers because I'm a Prince fan and there's a song called Morning Papers. This is where the magic starts to take shape, even when you don't think that it is. So it's really critical that you do take that time first thing in the morning, over your cup of coffee, over your cup of tea, in your private matter, even if you have to just get up 30 minutes earlier. That ain't easy because I'm not a morning person. To be in a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. That is critical. And you'll be doing this throughout these whole 13 weeks. Okay? Plus some bonus recordings. The trick is you can't go back and read them. Once it's done, you close the book and you just get ready for the next day. Okay? Now, the second thing that comes up during week 3 is shame and criticism. But that is your greatest teachers in disguise. I have spent a lifetime trying to avoid criticism. I would take it personally. I would cry over it. Oh, you were a little flat on that note. No, I wasn't. Oh, I'm working. I'm trying. I'm really. Instead of, oh, okay, Logan, let's do it again. Or let me just practice a few more minutes and then we'll get it, right? Like many of us, I was taught to take it personally, to believe that someone else's judgment was a reflection of my worth. And when that voice of criticism came from within my own, I believed it even more. You're not good enough. You didn't sing that note right. You shouldn't have said it that way. You should. Nah, nah, nah. The inner nah, nah, nah. But here's what I started to learn. Criticism, when faced with awareness, becomes a doorway. So this week, I looked at some old wounds around rejection, around being told that I wasn't talented enough, around moments when I tried to share something vulnerable and got silence or rejection in return. Or maybe it didn't come out the way that I wanted it to and that person took it the wrong way. Then I couldn't take it back. And instead of brushing it off or spiraling into self-doubt, I went back and I asked myself, what part of me is still hurting here? What does little Lala, inner Lala, need from me? Sometimes the answer was just rest, because I actually had a lot of tears. I really went through this week with a lot of emotion. a lot of self-awareness. And when I rested, sometimes it gave me validation, but it also was self-love for myself. And the same goes for shame. That sneaky voice that says you should have known better. You should be further along. You should keep your mouth shut. How dare you even question anything? Shame on you for being 16 years old and having a baby. Shame thrives in silence. But when we name it and we speak it out loud and meet it with compassion, it loses its power. I'm learning to turn criticism into clarity and shame into self-awareness. It is such hard work for me. It is, because I tend to fall back into things and I have to remind myself that, hey, we're taking a new journey this time. We're taking a new journey this time. We are going to do this because why? I know it is going to be worth it. It's not easy to stop doing what you're so used to do to yourself. So give yourself grace. Give yourself the time to really think and change how you are viewing things. Now, the next thing that came up, which when I first heard it in the book, I was like, huh? But then it started making sense. Synchronicity. And that's when the universe whispers to you, keep going. So something kind of wild happened last week. A friend I hadn't talked to in years sent me a message that echoed exactly what I was writing about in my journal the night before. Then I actually saw a social media post with the exact phrase that I had said to myself during my morning pages. And that's when I remembered something I used to believe but had forgotten. Some people call it law of attraction. Some people call it synchronicity, but it's real. These aren't just random moments. They're winks from the universe reminding us that we're not as alone as we think. When we begin to align our truth, the world starts to mirror it back to us in the most unexpected ways. So if you've ever been dismissed or you've dismissed these moments as a coincidence, I invite you to pay a little bit closer attention. Start writing them down, track the pattern, and watch what unfolds. Because when you commit to the journey of finding your soul's voice, the world begins to respond. Not because it's magic, but because you're finally listening and attracting the things that are good for you. Then this part wore me out. There were times I had to stop and dab my eyes. Unblocking yourself through detective work and digging into your dysfunction. This week, I took a very hard look at some of my creative blocks. The ones that keep showing up like clockwork, right when I'm about to take a leap. And I realized something. These blocks aren't random. They're rooted in systems that I have inherited and absorbed and created and put to root. Systems like overworking, being busy to avoid my feelings, believing that rest is laziness, thinking creativity must always be productive or profitable, associating success with sacrifice. I didn't just wake up one day to these beliefs. They were taught, and they were often rewarded but they no longer serve me. So I started to do some detective work and I asked, where did I learn this? Who benefits from me staying stuck in this cycle? What would it look like to replace this with something more loving? And that's when things started to shift. Slowly, quietly, but undeniably. We are taught from little children to believe a lot of things, and we just don't question them. And then we are taught that we are not supposed to question them. But we are supposed to question everything. Because sometimes the things that you end up believing simply are just not true. And sometimes the things that you are experiencing need to be questioned. It's how we grow. It doesn't make you a bad person. So this week is actually an invitation to do the same thing that I did, to investigate, to question, to peel back the layers and see what's really behind your creative blocks. Because when you understand the system, that's when you change it. Now listen, growth is not a straight line. It's a spiral. And there was a moment this week when I felt completely defeated. Like all the progress I had made had disappeared overnight. I was tired, unmotivated, started questioning everything. And then let's not talk about the grief that I'm going through. In 2023, I lost two of my sisters to a drunk driver. And I think this is the first time in my whole life that has really set this whole plan into motion. They were younger than me. They were in their 40s, still in their prime of their life. They were thriving. They were growing. They laughed. I missed them. So on top of all of this growth, I have this grief. And I never know when it's going to hit me. It's like a wave. But this time, instead of suppressing it, I just go with it. And so while I was dealing with this and really starting to understand that growth isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. Some days you feel like you're soaring. Other days you feel like you're back at square one. But you're not. You're revisiting the same place with a new awareness. And that's pretty powerful. So if you feel like you're slipping or you're doubting or you're falling behind, just take a breath. Baby, take a nap. You're not failing. You're integrating. And that takes time. This whole journey isn't about a constant forward motion. It's about being honest with where you are. Loving yourself, maybe sometimes for the first time. And trusting that even the setbacks, they're sacred. And then finally, I had to face the doubt. This week, I invited myself to look doubt in the eye. Not to battle it, not to banish it, just to sit with it and listen. You want to know what I did this week? I went out and bought myself some bubbles. Bubbles. Yeah, bubbles. And I would sit on my patio and I'd blow the bubbles. Not only did they make me happy, it also gave me peace. But what I noticed is all the bubbles that was flying around in the neighborhood were making people happy too. And I don't just mean children. So it didn't battle my doubt. It just kind of turned it into something else. When I started feeling a little bit of doubt, go grab my bubbles. Because doubt often shows up as dressed up, like logic. It says things like, be realistic. Or maybe this isn't the right time. You're too old. Who do you think you are? But here's what I found out. Doubt is often trying to protect me from embarrassment, from failure, from getting my hopes up. It's not the enemy. It's a scared part of me trying to stay safe. So I decided to respond differently this time. I blew bubbles. I wrote down every doubt. Then I gently asked it, what are you trying to protect me from? What would happen if I thanked you, doubt, and kept going anyway? That's how we move forward. Not pretending doubt doesn't exist, but by seeing it, honoring its message, and choosing to act anyway. So this week was a lot. It was a lot for me. So much so that I ended up spending a little more than a week reflecting and really tackling the things that I always wanted to rush through. In my life, I always felt like, do A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, this week. We're due this week. No, sometimes you just have to take a breath. Sometimes you just have to step back and go, I'm not really ready to move on. So it's okay if it takes you a little longer to get through each of these weeks. This is not a race. There's no race. You are the prize. And it doesn't really matter how long it takes you to get there, as long as you get there. So I have a couple of assignments for you. Now, first of all, you're more than welcome to buy the book, okay? The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron. I'll put the link below. You can buy it on Amazon. You can get paperback, hardback, whatever. You can even get audiobook. I like the audiobook because I listen to it while I'm walking. And then I also have a weekly workbook that goes with each week. And it coincides with what we're learning. So that is optional, but the link is below as well. Extremely affordable, guys. But here's some things that we're going to tackle in that workbook this week. We're going to create an anger map. And we're going to reflect on the moments of this week when you felt angry, even slightly. What triggered it? Somebody jump ahead of you at the grocery line? Huh? Something like that. What boundary or belief did that anger challenge you with? What is the anger asking you to protect or change or reclaim? Because believe it or not, somebody jumping in front of you at the grocery is a little bit deeper than what you're thinking that it is. They crossed a boundary. It reminded you of something that you didn't like. And what we're going to do, we're actually going to write that down in our workbooks or in your journals, okay? Then we're actually going to work on getting criticism to clarity. We're going to choose one piece of criticism from yourself or from someone else that stuck with you. We're going to write it down word for word, and then we're going to respond to it, and we're going to grow from it. Then we're actually going to unmask dysfunctional systems. We're going to identify one routine or one belief or one mindset that keeps you blocked creatively. And we're going to trace it back to where it came from and whose voice was it that put it in your head. We're going to ask some pretty tough questions with that, and we need to be honest about those. Then we're also going to do a synchronicity tracker. Like for 3 days, we're going to track random signs and coincidences that actually create meaningful moments. And we're going to reflect on those. Then we're going to tackle our doubt and write them down. Listen, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. Note to Lala. You're right on time. And if this week feels heavy, it's because you're doing the real work. Soul work. the kind that sets you free. So keep showing up, keep listening, keep writing, because your voice is waiting to be heard. So if you're ready to go deeper, grab your downloadable workbook for week 3, join our Facebook group to connect with others on the journey. And then you want to like, share, subscribe this post, and tag a friend who actually needs to reclaim their voice too. What key points have you discovered within yourself? Comment below. Thank you for joining me. We're moving on. I'm learning a lot about myself. Some of it's scary. Some of it makes me cry. And then some of it makes me very happy that I'm even tackling and being truthful about what is going on in my life. Because a lot of times I suppressed that. So I am Laura Lala Key, the singing international real estate agent, a creative, a loving person, and someone who really wants to ride this life with joy. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you next week. Go be a good human. You never know when a simple smile is going to save somebody's life, even yours. Sugar. Bye.